With this whisky, we have now completed the trifecta of William Grant & Sons whiskies. I mean, we haven't yet covered Ailsa Bay, but we'll just put that onto one side because it ruins our nice little triangle metaphor. What I'm saying is I don't know how the fuck I managed to cover Kinninvie before Balvenie. Like, who does it that way round? I do, as it turns out. So today we've got Balvenie 12 Doublewood. And I need to emphasise the Doublewood because there are a few Balvenie 12s kicking around out there now. There's like single barrels and other fun little expressions. But this is the one that really put Balvenie on the map. Launched in 1993, which was many, many a year ago now. It's only a little bit younger than I am. That's not depressing. I'm still young, still fit, and I've never been fit. I've always kind of just been sort of like a splat in a jumper. But I mean, hey ho, what we've got. But more on the whiskey instead. This, I don't want to say pioneered the whole kind of like sherry finish kind of a thing, because it didn't, but it made it a bit more mainstream. The Doublewood also has a special place in my heart because it's one of the first whiskies that I tried where I was like, oh, I actually like that. A lot of people's journey with any spirits, not just whiskies, but, you know, pick your spirit, you know, cognac, aquavit, gin, whatever. What normally happens is you start off with a cheap, accessible brand that is garbage, and you drink it and you're like, ugh, that's not very nice. And then you write off the entire category. Gordon's Gin is very guilty of this one. And I will throw them over those coals until the day I die, because it just is. So this is one of the first whiskies that I tried where I was like, oh, that's actually quite nice. I actually quite like that. I dig it. I did have it with a cube of ice. No judgment to myself. You know, there was nothing wrong with that. What can I tell you about this? Well, it's a whiskey. It's 40%. It is chill filtered. It is coloured. We won't hold that against it because it is a core bottling. I mean, we could hold it against it, but I mean, let's not be petty. It is what it is at the end of the day. And it comes from an era in whiskey production where the world was a different place. And to change it up now would be changing people's expectations. A lot of people really like this whiskey as it is. Is there a point to changing that? You could. Should you? Who remembers when Cocoa Pops changed their name in the 90s? That went well. So it spends most of its life in a refill American oak cask, and then it spends 9 months in Oloroso. Oloroso sherry, but not just, you know, a cask of actual Oloroso. That would be madness. And it comes out at 40%. I think I mentioned 40% already, didn't I? Yes, I did. Good. Grand. Excellent. And that's most of the information I've got for you, to be honest. If you want to know more about it, it's a well-recorded whiskey. There's tons of reading out there. You could go on the Balvenie website. They're more than happy to talk about all this stuff. Or you can actually read the label, because it actually has a lot of information on the label, which is nice to see for what is essentially a mass-market core release. There's actually loads of information on there. Okay, it's not like a boutique release, but there's still loads of information on there. So it's gearing you more towards kind of like your next step, almost. I also recently had an online tasting with Balvenie. I should quickly point out they're not directly like sponsoring this, and they weren't directly gifted to me for this purpose. I'm just kind of repurposing them because I have some left, because hammering 5 drams on 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday is not my scene, strangely enough. I've done it before. It hurts. It wrecks your day, man. So I just had little nips and then saved the rest. So that means that I've got a lot of other Balvenies to bring to the channel at some point. There's a 21-year-old in here. There's the 17-year-old, which for some reason we didn't cover on the tasting. I think because they underestimated how long it would take, and they spent an hour and a half on the 12 and the 14, and then they were like, oh shit, we've got 30 minutes and there's still 3 whiskies. We better skip the middle one, because I think I'm right in saying the 17-year-old's been discontinued now, which... But I also get it, because it was difficult to sell, because everyone just bought the 12 because it was cheaper. Sad. So in this blue glass, I have some Balvenie. Now, I'm following a recommendation by one of my viewers whose name escaped me because I'm a cunt. I'm apologising for that now. I'm putting it in a blue glass because it's a coloured whiskey, and they said, hey, if you have a coloured whiskey, you should put it in a coloured glass, because visuals. Also, this is the only clean Glencairn I've got to hand at the minute. Probably more that second one, if I'm being completely honest. So I'm going to nose this and taste it. Before I do, some begging. If you are feeling particularly generous, thumb this video. If you want to see more of what I'm doing, subscribe to the channel. If you feel like supporting me in my endeavours, there's links down to my Patreon, or you can join the channel as a member using the join button. And there's perks and stuff. You get stuff as well. You know, it's not just charity. You know, you get things like video updates about how the channel's doing, and on the Karen tier you get to tell me what to do, because Karens. I haven't had any cease and desists for that yet, but I'm sure they're coming, because the Karens are legion. Anyway, there's whiskey in this glass, and I should drink it before I get sued. The nose has a really interesting rolling tobacco scent. I am not a smoker. In fact, I've never smoked anything in my life. I came close in Amsterdam, but I refrained. You see, here's where they get you. The cake is not what you think over there. There's like a zesty lemon. Notes of toffee, caramel. It's like a shortbread kind of a inference as well. That's a word I don't use enough. Inference. Yeah. There's like a bourbon vanilla kind of a scent on there as well. It's a little bit fruity. I'm struggling to nail down any specific fruits, I'm sorry to say. It's kind of like a mixed fruit medley. You know, there's no one particular thing shining out, is how I'm covering my arse on that one. But you know what, actually, it's reminding me a lot of, like, take a rich tea biscuit, dunk it in actual tea, but not too long, because they're surprisingly brittle, those things, and they will fall in and no. And it's the smell you get right before you're like, shit, 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 shit. It's that. That was so British, it actually hurt me in the kidney. Was it that, or have I got something wrong with me? Okay, well, I'm going to stick this in my mouth now. Yeah, I've said that before. Apricot jam on a croissant. Something a little bit like Greek yogurt in there as well. There's like a little bit of a... yeah, a little bit of like a acidity meets kind of like a dairy creaminess. The sherry's sort of in the background a little bit. It's presenting, again, quite a generalised red fruit character without it being, let's say, red currants. Yeah, it's got like a tart, sweet kind of a thing going on with it. Let's say red currants. It does go a little bit darker afterwards. It's kind of like a muscovado sugar kind of an element to it as well. But it's not overwhelming, but it's also not flat. There's plenty going on. And yeah, it is a fantastic little intermediate whiskey. We were talking actually on the tasting on like the number of stories they've had between this and the 14 being kind of like good starter whiskies. I'm enjoying this. I am liking this whiskey, and I can see why I related to it all those years ago as well. It's just kind of like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I actually quite dig that. The full story of that one, it was long before I'd moved to Edinburgh. I was visiting at the time, and I was like, I'll do the touristy thing. I'll get some haggis and I'll get a whiskey. I didn't get the haggis because I was a tourist at the time. I got the haggis because I like haggis. Haggis is great. Try it on a pizza. Try it on a sandwich. Try it on your love anyway. Cheese and cream. Let's go with that as well. I never finished my story. So I went into The Advocate on Tron Square. That was it. Yeah, bit of a shithole, but hey, it was cheap. And I was like, I'll have a haggis and also a whiskey, please. And they gave me a haggis and then a whiskey. And I was like, thank you very much. And I drank the whiskey and ate the haggis, and I was very happy. And then I went about my day. The end. I'd never said it was an exciting story. I've polished this dram off in record time, and I think that's everything you need to know. It's an affordable whiskey. It tastes good. It's not going to break the bank. It's universally accessible. It's good. And there's plenty of information through much more well-established whiskey tubers and whiskey writers and just the internet in general. It's probably got its own Wikipedia page. So I'm going to wrap that up and say thank you very much for joining me, and do join me next time where I'll be drinking something else.